Hi, Morgan. How you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm terrific, thank you.
Good.
Well, I got to get the gushing out of the way real quick. I'm a huge fan of yours. And,
oh, thanks.
Several people in my office told me to tell you they're also huge fans of yours when I told them I was talking to you.
Oh, cool.
So, a lot to cover today. Let's start talking a little bit about 30 Days.
Yeah.
It's pretty much the greatest show ever.
Thanks.
That's a fact.
If only we could have kept doing it. It would have been even better.
Well, that's one of my questions.
Yeah.
What happened? How come it couldn't
I mean, I think that, it was kind of like my first real experience with, being in a network where you're literally having to produce a show versus what the show also returns on ad dollars. We had a network that was so supportive. Everybody at FX, was amazing, from John Landgraf to Eric Schreier to, all the folks in publicity. But when it came down to ad sales, which is literally what keeps shows there on the air, we were competing against shows like Nip Tuck that was pulling like a 5 share a week. You're competing against The Shield, which is getting a 5, Rescue Me, which is like a 4 to 5, and then our show, which was averaging anywhere between 1 million and 1.5 million viewers every week. It's just that they're putting our two shows side by side and comparing them, which you can't really compare us to Nip Tuck.
Right.
But that's what we were constantly being held up against.
Wow.
So it's a hard place to be, especially when you're making a show that kind of deals with the issues that we dealt with. But at the same time, the fact that we got to make 18 episodes, over the 3 seasons that we were on FX of a show that dealt with the topics that we dealt with was remarkable.
Right.
Yeah.
You'd think that a network like FX that aired The Shield would want the good karma that would come from your show.
Well, I think they did. I think they got a lot of good karma. We got a lot of good mileage out of it. So, yeah, I think it was still pretty great.
Well, tell me.
But I think we definitely had a couple more seasons, that we could have pulled off.
Oh yeah, I would love to have seen that. How did the concept for the show come about? Talk to me a little about that.
Yeah, the idea for 30 Days actually came from when we were finishing Super Size Me. Like we had sent a cut of the film to Sundance, and so we hadn't even gotten into Sundance yet. This is like October of whatever that would have been, 2003. Mm-hmm. And so we were finishing the movie, and so after we submitted the film to Sundance, I said we should have a test screening of the film, because that's what you do. You've been to those test screenings where people stand out in front of the movie theaters with their clipboards and say, "Would you like to come to a test screening of a new Paramount Pictures film?" And you go, "Sure, we would." So we did that. We got clipboards, so we seemed very official, and invited people to come see an independent documentary film. We had about 50 people, come to a theater that we rented, and we showed them the movie, and then we had a Q&A afterwards with myself and the 2 editors, where we went down and just got feedback on what they thought of the movie. In the middle of this Q&A, people started arguing with one another. Somebody was like, "And I think it's so important the way you're showing how terrible fast food is for you, and that it kills people." And somebody's like, "That's not what the movie says at all. What is wrong with you? You're an idiot." And people started yelling at one another in the middle of this Q&A. And the editors and I just look at one another, and we're like, "This is amazing." Right. Look at this, just this incredible raw reaction that people had to the movie. And so literally that week when we were back in the edit working on the film, I was like, there's a real opportunity here. I said there's a real chance that to do something different. And I said, we should try and use this format. And that's what it came from. The kid said we should try and take this idea of taking someone for 30 days and applying it to other issues.
Right.
So we did it with obesity. What else could we do it with? So we just started rattling off ideas, and from that was born the whole idea of 30 Days.
Cool. So here you are. You're a successful filmmaker, and you're in prison or a coal mine.
Yeah.
Was there a point where you kind of wondered, why the hell am I doing
Why
this?
am I doing this? Yeah. There's plenty of those moments. And when in prison, it was usually when the camera crew was it was 5 o'clock, and they're like, "All right, Morgan, we'll see you tomorrow," and I'm still in prison, as they all get to go home at the end of the day.
Right.
It's I don't know. It's for me, I love the idea of just emergent journalism. I love the idea of putting yourself in a situation that really helps you understand what it is. I got so much out of all the experiences that I went through on the show. For me, the one that I think that really affected me the most was probably the Indian Reservation episode. Mm-hmm. Just because personally it affected me. It really, I got more out of being there and being around the Navajo than I ever anticipated. It was remarkable.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, now you've got the complete, all 18 episodes coming out on a DVD box set, of course. Does that kind of stand for you as at least a nice, milestone of, hey, I did this amazing thing, and it's out there for the world to see now?
Yeah, and I mean, there's so many people who like the show, and I mean, I get emails and Facebook updates from people every day who are watching it, or kids who are watching it in school, and the fact that teachers are using it in classes to help educate kids about issues in our country, I think it's a cool thing. And so for me, I look at the box set as knowing that it's going to live on, people are going to continue to get to see it and share it and talk about it. So yeah, I mean, I think there is a real sense of accomplishment, and I mean, I'm really proud of that show. And again, as I said, to have a network like FX who was literally brave enough to put a show like that on, because every big network turned it down. Like, we took the show to NBC, ABC, CBS, Fox, and one by one they all said no, just because it was too serious, it's too controversial, it's dealing with issues that people don't want to talk about, and I mean, I just think the networks were wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
And, it's interesting because you say that it was too serious, and obviously it was a serious show with serious issues, but what I always enjoyed about your filmmaking and your TV making is how you work so much humor into serious subjects.
Yeah.
Is that a tough balance for you to strike, or does it come naturally for you?
I think it's harder with other subjects than some, but right. I think, for me, and it was after Super Size Me when I think it really hit home, is that we affected people with that film in a way that was so interesting that through people laughing, like, your guard comes down.
Right.
When you get somebody to laugh, I'm a real believer that when you can get someone to laugh, you can get someone to listen.
Right.
And so that's what we try to do with everything. We try and find, what are the funny ways to get into a story? Are there interesting things to talk about that are humorous in the middle of, like, a real serious topic? Gun control, you name it. There's things we've dealt with really hard issues in the show, but at the same time, there has been some levity within the programs, which I think really helps it be more accessible.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, just for the record, again, it's one of my favorite shows ever. So congratulations on that.
Oh, thanks a lot. So what's your favorite episode?
Let me think. I would say probably I really enjoyed the football player in the wheelchair.
Oh, that was a great one. See that one? My favorite episode of all 3 seasons was the hunter from North Carolina who lived with the family of PETA activists.
That's the one, exactly.
Like, that episode is so spectacular,
right?
Because I grew up in West Virginia. I grew up hunting, my whole life.
Sure.
And in this episode, to see how this guy, who literally is cut from the exact same cloth as me, to see this guy, how he's affected when he starts to, like, learn where his food comes from and what goes into getting, stuff into the grocery store where he shops. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And I love seeing just when you see the light come on in his head in the middle of that show is awesome.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And, I think the coal mine episode, I find that terrifying.
Yeah.
The concept of going down into a coal mine is absolutely
terrifying.
And
it's so claustrophobic, and
yeah.
So, and especially with everything that's just happened, it's heart-wrenching.
Exactly.
Yeah.